So Audi has just unveiled a concept for the Chinese market. It is an EV, but thankfully it's not an SUV because people in China still buy a lot of sedans and regular cars and not just SUV. I wish we had more of that philosophy over here as well. So what we're going to do in this video is have a look at this concept. I'm not sure about this design. It doesn't really feel like Audi to me. It looks... I don't know what it looks like. It doesn't look like any brand I've seen before. There is, of course, a lot of play with light. This being Audi, you have play with light in the front end and also in the rear. Before we jump into Photoshop here, let's have a look at this article from Car and Driver, link down below, and see what this is all about. So Audi E concept is what it's called. Is a 764 horsepower electric wagon for China. So they're doing an overhaul in China through a joint venture with SAIC. So one interesting design feature here, graphic feature, is that we don't have the rings anymore. And Audi says that this is supposed to be sort of a new brand for China where you don't have the rings. Instead, you have Audi spelled out in the front end with big bold letters. I'm not sure what I think about that. It kind of looks cool, but I think the rings is just, that is more Audi to me than just having the letters spelled out, you know, Audi in the front end. So it does away with the iconic 4 rings logo. As I said, 764 horsepower dual motor setup and claimed 435 miles of range. That is for the Chinese standards. I'm not sure if that is actually the mileage. That would be great if it is. A new batch of cars is set to display Audi on their bodywork instead of the classic 4 rings logo is what these are for the Chinese market, both in the front and also in the rear end. You also have Audi lit up, illuminated in the rear. So while the rest of the world has gone crazy over SUVs, cars have remained quite popular in China. So the Audi E concept takes on a low slung wagon shape, and I like that. Bring more cool wagons, because wagons to me just make sense. You have the same, very similar interior space to an SUV, but it sits lower, meaning that it's a lot more fun to drive. Maybe you need to, you know, bend your knees a little bit more to step into it, but it's so worth it to have wagons instead of SUVs. More wagons than what we have now, for sure. So at 191.7 inches long, the concept is roughly 3 inches shorter than the 2024 Audi A6 Allroad, but has a wheelbase that is almost 1 inch longer, sits almost 3 inches wider, and rises an inch less tall. So they flattened this, stretched it out in the width to make this look properly planted, and I do think they made a good job with that. The only thing I'm sort of confused by are the wheel arches here. They don't feel Audi to me at all. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. So the all-wheel drive wagon accelerates from 0 to 60 in about 3.6 seconds. Not bad. 100 kilowatt-hour battery allows for a roughly 435 mile range. As I said, that's based on China's CLTC test cycle. And you have 800 volt architecture, means that the concept can add around 230 miles of range in just 10 minutes. That sounds pretty decent to me. It's not bad at all. Audi also says the concept features driver assistance functions that can handle highway driving, urban traffic, and automated parking. You have smooth surfaces on the outside here and clean, simple surfaces, simple front end with intricate lighting element, typical for Audi to play around with a lot of lights wrapping around the body, colored panels. The look is reminiscent of the E-Legend EL1, an electric supercar that pays homage to the Audi Sport Quattro, and I can see a little bit of that in the front end here. I made a redesign of the Quattro a long time ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where I actually implemented this sort of framing around the front end. And I think this looks like a pretty modernized version of that type of design. The loop that houses the lighting also contains the sensors for automated driving and aerodynamic elements, and the same lighting motif is echoed at the rear. So you have the same framing in the front that you have in the rear end. An array of 4K screens spanning the entire width of the dashboard. And if you love screens, I mean, this is a great car for you, because we have a ton of screens here. We don't have traditional side mirrors. Instead, you have screens that shows you your blind spot and what you would normally see in the side mirrors. on each side, one for the passenger, one for the driver, and you have this big super widescreen dash that is just full of 4K pixels stretching the entire width of the interior. There is also a touchpad below the screens that can be used to navigate the menus. The screens run on new operating system that shows critical information front and center and utilizes facial recognition and artificial intelligence voice assistance. So there is tons of tech in cars these days. They are becoming more and more like a cell phone on wheels, and this is definitely one of those cars. But as they say here, this is a special market here. So previous 3 production models that will be introduced in China starting midway through 2025. Audi says that luxury car buyers in China, they are different from the rest of the world. They are younger and better versed in tech, and they have higher expectations for connectivity and also higher expectations for automated driving. So that is the reason why they just put as much tech as they could into this car. Audi provides a history of designing, developing, and engineering premium products, while Audi says that SAIC has demonstrated an ability to develop new products quickly. So that is the main partnership here. I'm not sure if that's a good thing though, to just rush out product like this. Maybe they're doing a great job, but usually if you want to build a quality product, it's going to take some time, no matter how good you are at pumping out products. So we're going to see about the quality of these cars, if they're going to be up to Audi standard, or if we're going to be a little bit maybe less than that, since we have more of a rush production here. From the partnership will emerge a new architecture called the Advanced Digitized Platform, with the first 3 models living in the mid-size and full-size segments, and this will likely not come to anywhere else but China. And Audi continues to offer different plans for Europe and US. For example, the Q6 e-tron and the A6 e-tron, which is also a wagon. Pretty cool to see. I'm not sure if that one is coming to the US. I think that the A6 e-tron is only for Europe. I might be wrong there. I hope it's coming here because, as I said, I want to see more wagons, more sedans, more wagons, more hatchbacks, and not just SUVs and crossover all over the place. So let's have a look at this design here from Audi. First of all, what really strikes you when you first see this car is, where are the Audi rings? We don't have the Audi logo up here, so the 4 rings like this. Instead, now we have an illuminated Audi spelled out in a very futuristic font here. You can see that the A is cut off here, for example. Same with the D is also cut out in this area. It looks pretty cool, but at the same time, as I said, I feel like the Audi rings are just such a big part of the front end of an Audi. And then we have the framing here, as you can see, that we talked about in the article. This framing frames the entire front end graphics. It looks very clean. We have these fins sticking out here. It looks like you have some sort of cooling down here. Also some airflow up here. You can see that this is most likely open, completely open. You have the Audi letters just sitting in midair, because we have the hood. If you look at the hood, you can see that it dips down and creates this internal wing for the front end to push down the front end and also allow for more airflow through this, that then shoots up right here in the hood. So I think the front end design looks pretty cool. This looks very simple, very minimalistic. There's absolutely nothing going on in this area here, except for, as they said, all the sensors are now located within this little rectangle here. So you have a flat surface in the front end that pretty much the only function for it is to house all the sensors. And we have some animated lights here, typical Audi style with the LEDs. Looks like small little diamonds going around the entire framing of the car. Main headlights sit up here. These are not bumper headlights, very thin headlights though, super thin, and probably very good at illuminating the roads, because I think Audi has some of the best headlights in the business right now. But overall, let me know what you think about this front end. If you see this, do you feel like this is Audi for you, or do you feel like they're stepping a little too far away from their identity? I can see some of this Ur Quattro design in this front end, with the boxiness and specifically the framing that goes around right here. So it is, I think, it's a decent looking design. It still has some identity to it, but is it Audi identity? That is the question. Same goes for the side view. I do like these muscles. Just have a look at how beefy this is, being 3 inches wider than the A6 all-road, for example, but we don't have any sort of sharp shoulder lines here, and that is, I do believe, has to do with the aerodynamic features. You don't want to have too many sharp lines. It's going to mess up the aerodynamics, so we want to have a smooth body as possible, but overall the proportions doesn't look like a bean-shaped bar of soap. You know, this looks more like a traditional looking wagon. I love how the roofline slopes so very harshly down and creates this very sporty design, very thin looking greenhouse. This is new for Audi as well. This treatment of the D-pillar, how it goes into the shark fin here. I don't think I've seen that design on any other Audi models. I could be wrong there as well. I'm not entirely sure. Wheel design looks great as well. For an EV, this has decent looking wheels. They don't look like a plate that they just smacked onto the wheels to cover everything up. You can actually see the disc brake behind here, and even part of the caliper, which is fantastic. That is what I want to see in pretty much every single car. It just makes it look nice when you can see those features. All the way down low, we have some black features here that carves out some volume to create a bit of a more athletic looking design. You can see that the black feature also continues back in the rear end. This looks almost like a Kia to me. If I just zoom in on this area here, it reminds me a little bit of the Kia EV6. For some reason, I do think it has to do with the bubbliness of this rear fender, and also the graphics, of course, of the taillight design having the same sort of island that we have in the front end. This seems to be the charging port right here. I do like that we have a blacked out roof. It also reduces some of this volume. You can see the cameras here instead of the side mirrors attached right here to the door. So it looks pretty clean to me. Has a lot of round surfaces to it, but it still looks very beefy and planted thanks to these big fenders that we have in the front and the rear. I do kind of wish that we did have some sort of sharp line that goes, you know, a shoulder line right here, because that is to me also very typical Audi, to have a distinct shoulder line. Now looking at the rear end, I don't know about you, but this, again, reminds me just a lot of the Kia EV6 with the graphics that we have here. I love the chamfers that goes around here. Same type of styling that we have in the front end. Also, I like that we have a proper bumper in the rear end. The diffuser looks like a minimalistic version of the Audi RS6 Avant with these big graphic features in both corners here, these static, almost rectangular pieces. The diffuser itself is not too aggressive. It looks to be, can't really see what's going on here. Maybe it's just a piece of black plastic that just covers up this. This looks to be just a flat piece of black gloss plastic. I'm not sure, but they could have maybe made this. You see how everything up here is organic and rounded and beautiful, has a lot of curvatures to it. Also has the same type of graphics in the rear with when it comes to the light situation like we have in the front end. And then you see the lower diffuser is all boxy and static and very sharp. I do wish we had a much more fluid lower section for this concept wagon. And here you can see the D-pillar treatment with the black rooftop, how it goes into the bodywork. We have some nice line flow going on here in the rear end, and we also have this big muscle over the rear fender looking very, very clean, and definitely plants the car properly onto the ground. Now, last but not least, this interior. So this is where we're heading today. We're getting pixels, as you know, instead of physical tactile feel of everything on the interior, and that is where Audi's heading to, also with the regular cars, not just their EVs. If you look at the 2025 model years of Audi, they're starting to look more like BMW's iDrive 9 system, which I don't think is a good idea at all. I really hope we come back to more of craftsmanship looking interior, meaning that we do have more analog features in the interior, even though this is probably a very, very cozy interior because we have a lot of ambient lighting here. As you can see, some nice texture on the doors and also some light wood in the middle. But to me, it just looks too minimalistic to me. It doesn't look like it has any sort of personality, this interior. It just looks like a generic interior of what, if I were to sketch up an EV interior, it's very easy to do. You just make one, a base for the screens right here that doesn't need to have any sort of styling to it. You can see it just rounded like this. You don't have any sort of different materials at the lower section or anything like that. Any creases, any cool lines in it. Not sure what this is. It's probably some, artificial intelligence feature in the middle. The steering wheel looks decent. They say that this is a concept, but the more I look at this car, definitely looks ready for production. There is really not anything in this car, both neither inside or outside, that I feel is too conceptual to be put into production right now. And these are two 4K resolution screens, one for the gauge cluster and one for the infotainment screen. You can see that we have the side mirrors located right here on each side of the car. So that is where we're heading when it comes to interior. I've said it before, but I'm not a huge fan of these type of interiors. It's just not my cup of tea. I kind of want to have more of I want to have the interior designers do more work and have more fun when it comes to designing interiors for cars than what we have in specifically EVs today. So overall, the Audi E concept is, as I said, specific for China, so it's pretty cool that they're getting all of this. I think this is sort of a preview, specifically when it comes to technology, of what we're gonna get ourselves in Europe and right here in the United States moving forward from Audi when it comes to technology specifically. And I think the design looks good. It doesn't look, as I said, too Audi-ish to me, but that's probably because Audi is maybe in a transition phase right now. They're trying to figure out what their next designs are gonna look like, and it looks like it's going to go the same route as pretty much every single manufacturer these days, meaning very minimalistic design to the exterior design and also to the interior design. But I do like that they took some inspiration from the Ur Quattro. It makes it look more aggressive and more boxy, specifically in the front and also, of course, in the rear end.